Thank heavens for that. We never quite know whether we're going live or not. So good morning, everybody. Great to be on the show again. And welcome to Leaders Live. And I'm Andrew Jenkins. And this is a short countdown timer to help the various feeds catch up and settle down. You know how it goes. And we can't wait for today's groovy show. We're just going to bring up the feed while we're talking, which is part of the reason why we've got this countdown timer. So, this week with Leaders Live, we'll be hanging out with entrepreneur Dr. Julian Nesbitt, folks, CEO of the Dr. Julian Medical Group. And our theme is how high-tech scale-ups will transform the world. Ooh, and there we go. Ooh. So I'm just trying to find the feed right now. Just bear with me. Here we go. And we're on. Lovely. Yep, there's lots of people joining. That's brilliant. And give us a wave, Julian. Quick hello.
Hello.
Hello. And we have our moderator today is Tilly Davis, CEO of Marketing CX. Give us a quick wave and a quick hello, Tilly. There we go.
Hello and welcome.
Brilliant. Yeah, thank you. And good morning all, says Maria Jeffers. So the comments are coming through as well. It's all good when the tech hangs together. So 79th Leaders Live show, folks. Fantastic. And thank you for all being part of this growing community. That feels really exciting. Wow, I think that deserves a wow. And here's our latest sponsorship video. Hope you like it. There you go. There's our new sponsorship video. I hope you like that. I hope you like the jingle. It's all brand new. Took us ages to do that this week. So, good morning, Maria. Great to have you, even if it's just for 20 minutes, she says. And good morning to LinkedIn news. I'm not quite sure who that is at the moment. We'll find out. Chris Windley, good morning. Fatiha, good morning. Jonas, good morning, and etc. etc. So say good morning to us. That's brilliant. So we know who you are. That's brilliant. So oi oi people and hi gang, it's Leaders Live showtime, folks, and we can't wait. And it's just after 8:45 a.m. here in the UK, and we are live as you can see, and spreading the love, folks, spreading the love, yabba dabba do. And we're delighted that we are being powered by your DMS, our Leaders Live sponsor, and we're constantly evolving the show, peeps. And so from this week, it's going to be shorter and even more focused, we're hoping. So no intermission slot this week, just so you know. And please let us know if you think our changes to the show are great after the show. We'd love some feedback, please. Thank you very much. And so quick change of scene. Let me just grab this. So if you're new to Leaders Live, a warm welcome to you, folks. And Leaders Live is a dynamic weekly talk show that generates business through networking, community, and extraordinary conversations that inspire. And as I've mentioned in the countdown, I'm Andrew Jenkins, and please don't be shy. We'd love you to introduce yourself to us so that we can get to know you and encourage you to actively network, build relationships with one another in this group. It's an awesome community, folks. So please join in, interact with the comments if you're new, and chat and ask questions as we go along. Our motto here is I to the power of we, folks. So so we're live streaming on multiple channels today. So I don't know how it all works, but it just does. So the wonders of new tech, don't you just love it? And if you can't catch us on live or on the replay, fear not, my friends. We've got you covered because this goes out on podcasts as well. And we've also got this new little app that we've been playing around with for a few months, which which would love you to support us. And for all the effort that goes into producing this live show, you can buy me a coffee to show me the appreciation. And that is www.buymeacoffee.com/Leaders Live. So, and there's a QR code there as well on the screen to make it even more easier for you, even more better. So there we go. And that's it. I'm just bringing Tilly back in. So, there we go. Okie dokie. So thanks, Laurie, for all the multiple coffee orders last week. That was fantastic. We loved that. So thank you very much. And please subscribe to all of our channels. There's a little bell there, and Tilly will pop all the links in the channel in a moment. And so few. Put it all together. What have you got? Bibbidi, bibbidi, bobbidi, boo. I love that phrase. You'll be singing that forever. So let's bring in our guest for this week. I'm just trying to find the scene. There it is. Super. And we're hanging out today with we've got a doctor in the house, Dr. Julian Nesbitt, entrepreneur, Dr. Julian Nesbitt, CEO of the Dr. Julian Medical Group. And our theme is high-tech scale-ups, how they will transform the world. Oh, how about that? Oh, that's the wrong one. I meant this one here. Oh, how you doing, Dr. Julian?
Hi, Angie. Yeah, great. Thank you. And
Brilliant.
thanks for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Very welcome indeed.
Nice to see everyone.
Yeah, so just a few more good mornings. Good morning, Matthias. Good morning, Clive. Great to speak to you again. I was speaking to you yesterday. And good morning, Joe. Sorry, I'm a little late on parade. Brilliant. I love that. Okie dokie. So where are you taking us today then, Dr. Julian?
So, so we're going to, I think what we just discussed, we're going to talk around the story of building a fast scaling company and thinking about how this sort of fourth industrial revolution is occurring, and all the high tech technology and AI and things that are moving forward. What does that mean for business? How do we keep up? What's happening to business in this modern era? And then sort of describing around what I'm doing in the health tech space and the problems that this country's NHS and probably healthcare actually in general across the world might be facing, and how we might sort of deal with some of those issues.
Wow. So we're going quite big today. We're talking about the NHS, aren't we? We're talking about high tech. We're talking about AI. We're talking about scale ups. We've got a lot today. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Julian.
And please ask questions, and I want it as a sort of debate, so I can give my views and opinions. But yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, so please interact, as Dr. Julian's just said. And good morning, Steve Whittle. And he says, good morning, everybody. So there we go. We've got a LinkedIn user I don't know about yet. So Tilly, who's that other LinkedIn user that's saying good morning to us? Do you know?
Can't see Andrew. It says LinkedIn user. I suspect it might be someone that's on their mobile.
Maybe on their mobile. There we go. So whoever you are, say who you are, and we'll say good morning back to you. So okay, so let's kick off. We've got an audience question. Have you got that to hand, Julian, or do you want me to say it for you?
Sorry, I haven't got it on my screen.
No problem. Okay, so we've got a kick-off question for you, just to get the interaction moving and grooving, folks. So today we're talking about fast scale-ups. We're talking about high-tech, artificial intelligence in this rapidly changing times of the digital era. So here's my question. How do you think our leadership styles will need to adapt and pivot accordingly? That's the question. Okay, it's me, Julia Hutchinson. Hello, Julie. Nice to see you, Julian. That's brilliant. You've come through at last, so that's fantastic to see you. Brilliant. Okay, so there's the question. Hopefully Tilly can put that into the feed. So the question is, how do you think our leadership style needs to adapt to pivot accordingly? That's right, isn't it, Dr. Julian?
Yeah, okay. So it's interesting that if you look at traditional leadership styles, it was sort of much more, I'm saying what you're doing this, and it was very potentially operational. And people had to sort of be in a production line, or, command and control. Is that sort of leadership style that was sort of traditionally how you'd run a business? And I think in this modern high-tech world, a lot of that sort of mundane operational tasks are going to be replaced. So I think our leadership style has to adapt into more of a empowerment. And if you want to grow fast, you have to delegate and empower people. And I think if you do that command and control leadership style, it just doesn't work with a modern high tech company, and you can't grow it quickly because it's some more middle manager type situation. So that's what I found anyway. So I think it'd be interesting
to see what other people say. Yeah. So chip in with what your thoughts are. Do you think it needs to be more collaborative, more cohesive, the leadership style in the future? So answer on a postcard and pop them in the feed, please, and that would be great. So while we're waiting for the feed to catch up, and it's gone into the feed, by the way, Tilly's just popped it into the feed. I'll come back to you in a minute, Julian. Just introduce our our moderator. We have a new moderator in the room today, Tilly Davis, and she's CEO of Marketing CX. And she's behind the scenes today, or actually Marketing CX are behind the scenes doing our marketing powerhouse for Leaders Live. And we work closely together. And Tilly's also been a guest on this show for many times. Over to you to say a little bit, Tilly.
Well, welcome everybody, and yes, it's an absolute pleasure to work with Andrew today and helping you guys. I just want to reiterate, ask questions and get the answers while we have access to Dr. Julian today. So I'm looking forward to working with you, Andrew, and thank you for having me on the show, helping you.
Oh, very welcome. It's brilliant. So there we go. And back to you again, Julian. So thanks, Tilly. And just before we begin, let's just give you a round of applause. I love this scene. You'll be picking that up for ages, mate. You'll be clearing that up for ages. Feel the love, Julian. I hope you love the groovy build-up. So there we go. So, Julian, we asked a question of the audience. Those are still coming through. We'll let that cook for a little bit longer, just while we're waiting for that for those to come through. So I think we've got one or two coming through at the moment. Morning to Amit Singh from India. That's welcome. It's great to see you, Amit. So fantastic. And actually, we've got one from. Have we got a comment already, Tilly? Do we know?
Yes, we do have one comment from Maria Jeffers. And Maria is saying, lead by example. Leaders need to be self-aware more than ever. Inspirational leadership is required. A leader that is adaptable and is happy to show vulnerability.
Oh, yes, very nice. So Maria's a mate of mine. Nice. So yeah, great. Yeah. Any thoughts on that, Julian?
Yeah, well, absolutely. That sort of comes into the not that command and control leadership. That's more around delegation and empowerment, and making sure that people are inspired by what the leader is doing at more of the figurehead role, and so that others can follow and do that. But yeah, I mean, leading by example is also very, very important.
Yeah,
I think you've got to follow a mission. If a company hasn't got a mission and a purpose, then your people that under that leader aren't going to work very, very effectively, and they're just going to feel like in a production line. So, but if you wake up every day and you know what you're doing and you've got purpose, for me, that's what's important. I think obviously there's monetary factors, but for me, money doesn't come into it. You've got to know what you're doing. That comes back to human emotion, right? So, what is our purpose in the world? And we need that to, I think for happiness, in my opinion.
Yeah, when we find purpose, we need to give it away, don't we, Tilly? So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Dr. Julian, we also have Steve Whittle, and he is saying, in a high-tech world, the employees are often seen as resources to be utilized rather than humans with feelings and needs.
Perfect.
A successful leadership style in a high-tech world must recognize the importance of treating people with respect and reverence. What say you?
No, of course, absolutely. And I think, again, it's sort of making sure that you try and understand how that how that person functions, and that they are a human being, and that everyone is nice to each other, and making sure that they have roles that suit their needs and are actually what they're going to be good at, because there's no point saying you should be doing something that isn't going to work for you, and then actually if they get it wrong, I mean, part of the problem, if they get it wrong, traditional leadership styles were sort of telling people off. That just doesn't work. And our human emotions, if you tell someone off, you're going to suddenly be very defensive and it doesn't feel very nice. So understand that. You've got to understand that other person's point of view and treat them with respect. And there's probably a reason why they might have got that wrong. And how can you move forward in the future and just to see it from the other side?
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. And then Matthias is saying it all depends on the situation. I served in the military back in the days. There we obeyed orders without question. This strict management style has also been adopted in the workforces, but in modern times, we need a more human leadership style, focusing on having the work done before deadline, empowering everyone involved, granting autonomy. Sorry, Andrew, I've got a tongue-tied here for all, and focus on employees' mental health.
No problem.
Yeah,
Yeah, brilliant.
absolutely.
Yeah,
And we're moving
absolutely.
away from, I mean, I would be terrible in the military. I mean, obviously, in a military
Mm.
situation, that's the traditional way of doing it, is command and control. And there's a reason for that in the military. But yeah, I think that there are potentially
Yeah.
some situations where you need a bit of command leadership. But yeah, as I
Of
say,
course.
I find it more effective to set a goal or a deadline, and the team underneath are empowered to
Yeah.
do that, but with support when needed. And that's
Yeah.
about having the right people.
Yeah, and Matthias continues, and interesting, he says we must also show the ability to adapt to change, distribute tasks fairly, and create a workplace with respect, inclusion, and justice for all.
Yeah, and this
And I
is
think that
key.
is very important.
Key, and it's
Yeah.
not, this is about high performing businesses and high tech businesses, and the two go hand in hand because the change is so rapid, and because you're relying on experts and highly competent people working together, and usually small numbers of people with fantastic skills, if you like. They need to be, the leadership style is really important to be kind of more servant leadership, because actually, they just go elsewhere if they don't like what's happening in their company. And modern leadership is all about bringing the best out of people and allowing them to find their purpose as well in the work that they're doing, right? So yeah, that's why it's so important. Tilly.
Yeah.
This one is interesting, Julian. Jonas is saying, are we talking about Society 5? Using technology to enhance people's abilities via technology to enable them to work in the new
There we
world.
go. There we go. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
many
that's what
mundane tasks will be automated. So those who used to do these jobs need to be taught new tasks.
I think we'll come
Wow.
on to sort of the
Yeah.
AI element, and I
Yeah.
think this is the thing. A lot of tasks that could be done by robot are the very sort of
Mm.
factory line or whatever. So the end of the day, we're human beings, and we have huge skills that our brain can do as human beings that a robot can't do, and we can all do
Thankfully.
them. But I think people, well, at the moment,
Yeah,
At the
thankfully.
moment. Yeah.
there are. I mean, a robot's never going to have empathy, true empathy, right? So
Let's
I
hope
think,
not. Yeah.
yeah. Well,
Mm.
it can learn. I mean, if it can learn a brain, I mean, it's interesting. They were saying about, when you're speaking to this chatbot, can it actually
Oh yeah.
understand your facial expressions, or
Very
can
true.
it pick up those nuances?
Yeah.
Unless we then have a robot avatar with a face in front of us that's looking at our face and picks it up, because that might happen in the future. But yeah,
Yeah.
there are still going to be things that a human being has to do, and for
Thankfully.
me, it's all about augmentation, not replacement.
Brilliant.
So
Yeah. Well said. Augmentation
Oh,
rather than
yeah, well
replacement.
said.
Yeah, well said.
Mm.
So let's move on for you, and let's get to some other questions here. So let's start with the current healthcare issue. Some might even say crisis. And today, and in the future, what's going on in the NHS and other health services around the world. It's quite a common story, I'm guessing. Julian, take it away for us.
Yeah, so I guess if I relate sort of this to my personal story and my personal experience, so I'm a GP still a day a week, but obviously I'm scaling this health tech company. My original inspiration for doing that was working in A&E. I actually came across 9 people in a row who tried to kill themselves, and if I
Oh,
asked them why, it was because they were on a 9-month waiting list
oh
to get
my
help.
gosh.
And I thought, is there not a better way of trying to get these people help? Like, why is there such a long waiting list? How can we do this? And can we utilize technology to help to solve that problem? So healthcare in general at the moment is facing a supply and demand crisis. So, human beings are needed, and there's not enough of them in healthcare. And I think, that's the major problem all across healthcare, and potentially, I think, even lots of other countries as well, and especially in mental health,
Mental
where
health.
the
Yeah.
waiting list is just going up and up and up, and there just is not enough capacity to deal with the problem. And I think, when you've got clinicians leaving, the issue you have, right, and this is in GPs as well, the more stress and workload you put on someone, the more likely they're going to just burn out and have to leave. Even in my practice now, 3 people have resigned because they're burnt out. So now we're
Wow.
left with it's horrendous as a
Even more
GP.
burnout.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then what happens is you've got more and more need for it, and actually there's more and more people with the problem, and less doctors or therapists to deal with that problem. So you've got a huge problem there. And for me, like, how can we utilize technology to help to firstly make life easier for that clinician, empower them more, give them more autonomy, give them purpose back to know what they're doing. Pay obviously comes into that, especially in the
course.
NHS. There's a big issue with that.
Mm.
And then how can we use tech to sort of support that individual? So support the person, so they might not need to see that human being as much. And then utilizing allied health professionals from a GP perspective is also really important. So it's about making sure that people go to the right place first time. So sort of that care pathway element of needing the correct triage, giving people the correct information. If digital tech, we can utilize personal dashboards, give people personalized, tailored information, and over time, with the data we collect with outcomes, you can personalize that even more and more. So that way, you've got access to the right information that you need. So maybe you don't need to see the doctor as much, and to try and offload some of that pressure. I think
That's really interesting, that actually. Yeah. So by providing more and more information, it means that you don't have to go to the doctor for that expertise. Or, actually, I was in my doctor's practice the other day, and I was seen really early for the first time ever because I arrived. There was no one in reception. It was like, gosh, I've never seen the doctor's place like this, because they're doing a lot of their triaging online, right?
Well, yeah. So actually, from a tech perspective, so the platform that we developed is around that. But actually, from a sort of even just through COVID, the efficiency of a GP has massively improved, because right now what I would do is I triage my patients on a phone call, and you don't necessarily need to see if a patient
Exactly.
wants to come in and see me. And again, this is because of the human element is needed there. And some people need a chat, and some people are feeling down. They need to see you. They should, but a lot of people, they might have a urine infection, or they might have a this or that can actually be dealt with very easily on the phone. That's better for the doctor and better for the patient, and much quicker and more efficient. So as doctors, we're actually seeing far more patients, but just there's less of the doctors. So and then I think it's how you use that technology to keep enhancing that. And there's preventative care in there. So making sure people might not get sick in the first place, and then there's follow-on care to sort of help people to prevent them from coming back. Now, in mental health, I think that's even more important. So making sure people have the right tools to deal with that. It's like I relate it to a physio appointment. If you see a physio for an hour and then you don't do your exercises or your homework, you're not going to get better. So
Yeah.
you have to do the tools. And some people at the moment might not have the capacity to do those tools. So how can we make it more, give them prompts, reminders, digital homework? How can we make that easier for the patient and support them on their journey? There's lots to think about
So tell us
with
a little
that.
bit about your story then, Julian, and the business that you've created and the app that you've created to resolve
Yeah.
this healthcare crisis or this issue. Tell us a bit more about that, Julian.
Okay, yeah. So it's been going for 6 years, but I sort of for the first 3 years was a full-time doctor without a team, bootstrapping everything. So it was
Wow.
difficult to grow it. But in that phase, it was all about test and learn, and test cheaply and learn quickly. And when you sort of work out what's needed and what's not. And what my idea was that we can build a platform to enhance patient care, to give a patient side, enhance the therapist side, so make it life easier for a therapist and better, and then digitize admin tasks, and create sort of a much more efficient way of working. So from a therapist perspective, giving them a platform that integrates a patient side, a therapist side, and a electronic health record. Now, current electronic health record systems are just focused on the back end, like the clinician writing notes.
Yeah.
They don't have this patient-facing element to it. And that's actually really inefficient, because if you have a patient-facing element, you can actually collect a lot of the information you need from that patient before the appointment, through assessments, registration forms, that sort of stuff. And that can auto-populate the clinician's notes, and they don't have to ask it in the session. So they can really focus on doing the care that's needed, and
Okay.
collecting that mundane information beforehand.
So the
So
app gives everybody more information through the patient, right?
yeah, so
Okay.
so the idea was that you can connect someone with a therapist more
Yeah.
effectively, more easily, and
Mm.
it's gone on from that to not just being a sort of therapy service provider, i.e., we're connecting you online with a therapist, to more also about how we make that whole process more efficient, and being able to give you personalized resources, self-help tools
Wow.
on your own dashboard, so that you've got access to all the information. And I was saying, like, a lot of solutions out there are just tackling one part of the care pathway.
Yeah.
So there's stuff doing like triage, or there's stuff doing assessments, or there's stuff that, actually no one's brought it all together. So the vision for me was, can we bring this whole care pathway together? Can we do this in a modular fashion so that it's easy to pick and choose modules and make it customizable but still scalable because it's modular?
Yeah.
And and interoperable. And that's the other thing. So from a platform perspective, there's things do not talk to each other, and that is one of the biggest challenges we face. So GP would write notes that doesn't go to the A&E department.
Doesn't join up. Yeah. So you've got a whole joined up system there, including patient notes as well, to make the whole system really effective, plus information in the background that then informs the patient and the doctor, right? So everybody wins.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of grown from, as I say, we started out by doing the service, and we're still doing the service. So we're in about 25 NHS trusts now, growing fast.
Well done. Yeah.
Multiple health insurers, occupational health companies providing a service, but because we're doing it, we're understanding feedback all the time.
Yeah.
How can we make life easier for the therapist? How can we make life better? The therapist can upload availability when they want, therefore they have a flexible life. The patient can be matched with and find a person that most suits them. And by empowering the patient, they actually turn up. So we've halved the did not attend rate. We've double engagement because they're getting the right person the first time, and they're booking it.
Brilliant.
So they're finding it when it suits them.
Brilliant.
And then it's moved on from us doing the service to now actually also the tech we've built. I wanted to spread the technology to other service providers. So that's what's happening. I mean, it's about integrating it. One large provider that's about to start using our system is using 6 different systems that don't talk to each other. So they've realized if they can consolidate it into one, it's just far more efficient.
And this is the beauty of tech, isn't it? That it can glue things together so well. And you've got a pathway that's iterating all the time on that tech platform that you've built to just make it better all the time. Give you a break for a minute, and there's a few comments coming in. I'm just going to bring Tilly back on again. Just bear with me. What's going on in the chat, Tilly? There's some interesting questions and things going on.
Yeah, there's some interesting questions coming on. I think just towards the last question, just a last comment that came in is Matthias said another thing that should see an end in the modern workforces are bosses screaming and reprimanding employees for making mistakes. If an employee makes a mistake and admits it, something they should be encouraged to do, true leaders will say, "Thank you for telling me. What can I do to help?"
Yeah. And that whole thing about mental health as well, isn't it? That's just not going to be a great outcome.
Well, this goes back to the human being point. Exactly. If you haven't read this book or you haven't listened to this book, it's called How to Influence Minds and how to Win Friends and Influence People.
Oh, that little brand new book that's about 5-10 decades old, right?
Correct. But the principle of it is
Carnegie.
From 1950 he came up, and it's because we're human beings and we have emotions. If you attack someone and say they're defensive and it won't work, it's understand it from that other person's point of view, understand why that mistake happened. How can you learn from it? That's the key.
Thank you. Great. Tilly, carry on.
Yeah, then we've got City, Dr. Julian, interesting one. She asks, based on your experience, what are the key success factors that have been leading you towards your success right now?
Wow, great question.
Big question. Yeah, there's a multitude of factors. I think, so for anyone to have success, you have to understand the problem very deeply, and that problem is something that needs to be solved. Because if it's a problem that you've made up or that doesn't really need to be solved, or someone doesn't need it, it's not going to work. So, and actually you might start by having a problem that might not be or like as a problem as you thought it was. And that's where you learn fast, and actually these people aren't buying this, it's not working. And then you understand what that person's problem is, and then you adapt and you pivot quickly. So I think what we've done, I think, is you've got to stay close to the market. So there's a lot of people building solutions right now that might not work. They've gambled everything on red, and I see this in a lot of digital therapeutics. And they've sort of built something, spent loads of money, and then they launch it, and actually no one's using it, and it's like, okay, why not?
Because it's gone out for fit for purpose as soon as it's been launched, right? A bit like government websites type stuff.
Yeah, you've got to know what it's about solving a problem, isn't it? And if and that's the key.
And the key is not just solving the problem, but solving it quickly and iterating and creating the next version of the software over and over again, really, really fast. And those speed to market is massively important. And again, back to leadership. And that's why leadership needs to be as agile as the software, right? And the tech.
Yeah.
So, brilliant. What else is going on, Tilly? Thank you.
Yeah, then we've got an interesting one from Chris.
Hi, Chris.
He's advising that GP practice need help with cybersecurity, cyber essentials, etc. And we have a number of discussions going on there, obviously using AI and machine learning to help in this. As we are hearing, they are massively more connected than they were.
Yeah.
And I suppose, Julian, with AI and using technology like this, cybersecurity is an issue.
Yeah. I mean, I say with any technology, you've got to put the right regulations in place for that. And I mean, the good thing about modern cloud servers now is that they've got really solid security backing to that. But that's why it's so important to have a compliance person in your organization if you're building something like that.
And security, understanding, and cyber security, and all of those things. So Chris is right.
Testing, making sure, because I say that's the biggest threat now in a digital age, right? So
well done. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Tilly.
Okay, then we've got Matthias that's advising us on a great initiative. In Norway, students at upper secondary have been forced to go to the doctor to have a sick leave note for legal absence from school due to sickness, forcing parents to take time off to take their kids to the doctor. And doctors to waste their time writing notes for diseases like a cold. All of this because Norwegian politicians want to prevent youngsters to bunk off school.
Brilliant phrase.
That sounds very interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So
who
actually,
of us haven't bunked?
Yeah, bonked. I love that word. Well done. Yeah. And, technology can sort all that lot out, right, Julian? Which is where your app comes in again, making these things easier and cleaner.
Yeah, just make it more efficient. I think I attribute this to like banking. So although it's a bit different because there's a lot more complexity in healthcare, but in banking, right, you log on to your app now and it's just really easy to do.
Yeah, very true. Good way of looking at it. It should be as efficient as the banking app, right?
Yeah, I mean, you still need human beings there for those that can't use technology, and we have to be careful of that. But if we can, for equality purposes, but if you can offload the majority of people in a technology way, you can bring it into the modern digital age. Is my opinion. So that's where we need to go with healthcare, and there's such a huge amount of white space and opportunity in that area.
Yeah.
Sorry. As Matthias is saying, Julian, your system should get rid of so much of this bureaucracy that's going on as well. I know we've got a similar problem here in South Africa. Where it's legal, we've got to have sick notes, even in the workforce.
Yeah, we do here too. That's right.
Yeah. And then Maria just said, great discussion, but unfortunately she needs to go. But Maria, the recording will be available.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Okay, and then Matthias says, question for you, Dr. Julian. How has the response been on your system from the government? NHS perspective.
Brilliant.
Yeah, well, it's scaled really fast. I mean, we've gone from, how many NHS trusts? So we're now in 25 NHS trusts, going from like 3 to 25 in 2 years.
Gosh.
And that's mainly from a service model perspective, but now we're starting to scale the platform SaaS perspective where we give them the tech as well. And as I say, without even marketing it at the moment, I've done no marketing. It's all word of mouth. But again, because it's solving a problem that and especially access to therapy was such a huge problem that it just happened. So it didn't need marketing, which is really interesting.
That's amazing, isn't it? So it took off that quickly. That's incredible.
Well, it's just, again, understanding the problem, I think, is the key. If you solve the problem, they will talk to others about how that's been solved. And word of mouth, I think, is the most effective form of marketing.
Yeah, I can completely agree with you. And just out of interest, just from a business perspective, because you talked about, you're now sort of wrapping up the tech as part of the package. What type of to scale that quickly? To go from 3 NHS trusts to 25 in what 1 or 2 years? 2 years, I think you said. Did you have investment behind you, and how did you go about getting that? What is for those people that want to scale up a tech business? How do
Yeah.
you go about that? How do you get the
So the journey,
investment?
yeah, I bootstrapped it for a while actually, but the journey
Mm,
is you raise a family and friends round. I think it was about, I think that was a sort of 100 grand,
yeah.
and then 50 to 100, and that was, you build fast, iterate, build fast, and don't build an app. Don't go off and build an app. Do a web app first, or do something really simple like a web, and just get feedback. If you build an app and it doesn't work, it's a real nightmare. So just do something cheaply and quickly,
Or
and
like a
then
website or something, you mean?
yeah, a website, and then just build from it. So like we started out, I mean, the thing was absolutely terrible, the platform, and just over time it's just got better and better and better. So
Yeah.
that's and because of the feedback. And then then I did an angel round of like 350, and then I did another angel round of 650, plus a grant that we won of 450. So that's the investment I've had so far. But we're just doing a round now of 2 to 3 million to sort of really get the tech scaled up and internationally as well. So
Wow, I mean that's just brilliant. So just to reiterate that, you started with nothing. You then went to friends and family. You got 100K from them. You built something sort of cheap and cheerful, web based, quick, dirty. Get the concept
actually, I
over.
built a really dodgy app with Russian developers, which I shouldn't have done.
That was the learning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if that had some security issues. Chris Windley might be able to
Yeah.
tell us about that. And then you then sort of started to build it out with feedback, and then you went for your first, second, third, fourth angel round, and you got a grant as well for 350K or whatever. So and now you're going
Now we're
for
doing
2 to
VC.
3 million. Wow! And that's in what? How many years is that, Dr. Julian?
So I've done it. I've been doing it for 6 years. But yeah,
Yeah,
when you
pretty
start, I
good.
didn't pay myself and stuff. And now I've got a team of 40 people now. Head
Wow!
office.
Yeah,
But yeah, the idea is that I don't want to have too big a burn rate.
yeah.
There's some companies that sort of have millions of pounds of burn rate and they're raising hundreds of millions. I don't know if that sits uncomfortably, especially in this marketplace at the moment. So for me, it's about staying close to revenue. What does the market need?
Yeah, and iterating slowly,
Not
but
overextending.
yeah,
And I think the biggest problem you have with companies like that, they've raised absolutely huge amounts of money. They've overextended. And it's so interesting. You see articles of, this diabetes app that helps you with your management of diabetes.
that's brilliant. Great idea.
I mean, there's a one that's it gives you a healthcare professional alongside it. They've overextended so much that their reviews are so bad because they can't access the healthcare professional, and actually they're only getting the information, and that's
Okay.
why that's key, that you need the human being element to it, but you need to augment that.
And the key is not to grow too quickly, to grow just about the right pace, and don't get
But
too
yeah,
got it.
don't overextend.
Don't
Basically.
overextend. Absolutely, yeah, that's a
Things will
critical.
fail if you're growing fast, and be
Yeah,
accepting of that, and you are breaking a system all the time. But this is why, because it's so difficult, people have to be behind you with a mission and a vision, and they know it's going to be difficult, but you go through. Having said that, I think like what Elon Musk is doing in Twitter is going too far,
yeah,
and it's not respecting the employee. But people need
yeah,
to be behind you in a sort of vision and a mission. That that's why they're doing that. And again, it's not, and they will work harder. And I think that if they've got a true purpose, then people are all
yeah.
behind you on that.
Yeah, I completely agree with you with the Twitter comment. Just we're going to change gears a little bit now, and we're just kind of gearing up for coming to a close shortly. But we talked a little bit about AI in the beginning of this thing, and many people here are interested in the whole digital area, the high tech, and the artificial intelligence thing, and the build up to this.
Yeah.
Building up to this, we did this poll, which is really interesting, actually. So I did this poll as a business leader. What's your prediction concerning AI in this unfolding digital tech era? Because we're living through rapidly changing times at the moment. And the choices were futuristic, game changer, not sure, Big Brother. And look at the responses there, quite interesting. So the majority of people see it all as game changing. Some people see it as Big Brother, but we got a big response for this. So what say you, Dr. Julian, to those kind of results?
Yeah, no, and I agree. I think we just got to do it sensibly,
Yeah.
and carefully, and understand what AI can do and what the human being can do. So, you know, skills of the human being, empathy, understanding nuances, that sort of leadership thing. An AI tool can't do. An AI tool can analyze data and come out with a really useful response that I think that the human being uh, then can act on. So I think, you know, it's about augmentation, not replacement. And I think one of the things we're going to cover quickly on part of this is like
Mm.
where business is going. And
Yeah.
I think what's interesting is back in the day, in this 19 in the 1800s, businesses lasted 100 years.
Mm.
Now they're lasting 10, and this
If
is
you're
sort of,
lucky. Yeah.
yeah, to the fourth industrial revolution. So you go in business, you go sort of along this line here where you're trying to work out what to do, you don't know what you're doing, then you start to get some traction and you've got your product market fit, then you go to scale, which is going brilliantly, you know, and things affect. Then what happens is you level off, because you've then got competitors coming into the market, and because of this modern tech era, there's a chance for competitors to come in all the time, and things changing all the time with AI and everything coming in much more easy, and then things decline. And
Yeah.
what happens in this phase is that you've got to put structures and processes in place in a sort of middle management way that makes it harder to innovate. And I think, unless you then because competitors come in that are easier to innovate, and you're not staying close to the true market, and you decline. So for me, it's about how do you put structures and processes in place that to allow you to scale, but you're still innovative, still understanding the problem, still things are changing all the time with technology, understanding, you know, keeping up with the world, so that you can extend this life cycle. Otherwise, you know, businesses will fail.
That's a great way of looking at it. And it's a bit like, you know, as we grow from sort of speedboat to super tanker, don't we? And it takes longer time to turn when we've got processes in place, but actually they're necessary. And the key is to kind of keep light-footed enough that you can still turn fairly quickly and pivot. And, you know, luckily in today's world, particularly with tech, you know, the agile way of producing, you know, new software is done through iteration, test, and send it out, rather than, you know, long sort of waterfall software testing techniques that just take forever. You know, it's done a lot more light-footed, isn't it, these days, which help the tech industry. But you're right, you know, as you grow bigger, then the risk is that you grow slower as well, I guess. Yeah, very interesting. Thank you. And this whole world of AI, you know, in the we'll come on to the fourth industrial revolution in a moment, because I'm not quite sure for me what the linkages are there. But, you know, these chat bots that are out these days, they're frighteningly clever, aren't they? You know, and I'm glad to hear you say that they'll never replace a human being. But there was an article on Radio 4 the other day talking about, it's a 5 o'clock slot on Wednesday or Tuesday, talking about GPT-3 or something. And,
Yeah.
you know, my gosh, you know, the questions that you can ask that, you know, asking the question about, tell me about negative thoughts, you know, and, you know, the chat box came out with something that you'd never think that had been written just by AI, right? It was
Yeah, no,
just
I say
incredible.
AI will replace mundane operational tasks,
Yeah.
but won't replace the other human being tasks that we're good at. So, OpenAI was created by Elon Musk, and he then left it actually because of a thing. But it was him and another chap. I can't remember the other chap's name. But the idea was that they wanted to create a AI for good. So obviously they had $1 billion, and now they raised another $1 billion from Microsoft. So they have a lot of resource behind them, but they've created something very, very interesting. But what it does is analyzed the internet from everything, and then they've had a human being go through it and try and make it more conversational. So
Yeah.
it's worked out what internet connections there are, and then so essentially you can basically Google stuff and it comes out with a really long, well written answer. But the problem with it is we don't know if that answer is correct or not,
Yeah.
because it has inherent biases in it, although it definitely admits that. So yeah, and it will grow and improve. So again, analyzing data is what AI is good at. So, you know, from my perspective, we can analyze the data of what type of human being responds best to what type of thing or treatment or whatever, then we can continue to personalize care. So I think it's you know, it's really exciting to use it in the right way.
Very interesting. And I think the key thing here is, look, the human smarts won't go away. We just got to get smarter, right? As the mundane things get sorted out. And, you
Yeah.
know, back to NHS apps and things like that, a lot of things can be sorted out in the meantime where humans don't necessarily need to intervene, make things really more effective. So it means that that patient-doctor dialogue can be absolutely super smart, real quick, very efficient and highly effective. And that's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the beauty of AI. Okay, I get
Do
that.
the mundane stuff first, collect all the data you need, information,
Yeah,
and then the doctor can, or the clinician can be much more on point doing the
yeah.
clinician bit or the reassurance, because you can't give information of everything, because if as you know, we've just discussed this, like if you Google stuff and you don't really, you get scared from what you're looking at because it's not,
Oh
and
yeah.
then you want reassurance sometimes from a human being. But if
Yeah,
you've got all the information and the human being can reassure you, then you can go off and actually be, so you still need that human being element,
yeah.
but it's much more effective.
Brilliant.
And again, I think human beings do need reassurance from human beings. And
Absolutely spot on. Yeah, otherwise we all go to the doctor saying we've got cancer, right? Yes, because Dr. Dougal has just told Google has told us so. Let's give you a break for a second. Tilly, what's going on? Let's bring you back on. Tilly, what's going on in the chat, Tilly?
Yeah, interesting one, Dr. Julian. Chris Windley said compliance person in place is great advice.
There you go.
What say you?
I mean, it's completely, you need it. It's very important.
Yeah.
There's rules and regulations now for a reason, and you can't be a maverick on that. And as you say, especially if you're in healthcare, you're dealing with people's personal data. It's incredibly important.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, then we've got a statement here from LinkedIn user. It is someone that's either not connected to us, Andrew, or on their mobile.
Yeah.
But they say if we don't address the great control, they're driving cooperate innovation. From big finance to government access and regulations, there need to be a new dimension and approach to encourage innovation, not just in the waste globally, but every length and breadth of our society around the world.
Perfectly said. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the same person is continuing by saying address the cost of innovation can increase the productivity and prosperity of society. Inclusive financing, simplifying the system so that the wider society can benefit from it. In return, you more inclusive offering and access to information.
Lovely. Yeah. No, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, then Matthias, interesting. The Twitter case is definitely a masterclass in how not to lead, particularly when you take last week's Kanye West tweet and Elon Musk's response to this. Noel Gallagher said it well. Twitter on its way to become a playground for some idiots.
Yeah, technical expression there. I like that. Very good. Very good.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Say,
Yeah.
Twitter's coming again. What Elon's done there, he's always been someone that has enforced things on people, and it's sort of again a command and control type thing. However, having said that, he's been successful in certain companies where there's been a clear vision and purpose, where people are willing to work as hard for, like, I want to go to Mars. Okay, well, that's really exciting. I'm going to keep working because that's an amazing vision and mission, or I'm going to save the planet. When it comes to Twitter, I think you haven't necessarily got as much of that vision and mission, and he's got too much, putting people down, not giving people empowerment, not how, and you've got to get the best out of someone. You've got to give them the mission and purpose, but still, not be horrible to them, basically.
Yeah. Thank you.
yeah, then Martin just shared with us Xerox now provide what it calls robotics. Simple things like looking for drivers, utilities, or simple questions.
Yeah.
So kind of like first line support.
Yeah, that would make life a lot easier trying to find those things. Absolutely. Yeah, carry on, Tilly.
Okay, then Chris responded to Matthias saying Elon has gone from hero to zero ever since he became pro-Republican and pro-Russian.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Joe Cooper, Google is terrible sometimes, especially if you're a catastrophist.
Yeah.
Can't spell that, laugh out
Brilliant,
loud.
brilliant,
Can't say that either, Joe.
Yeah. Human emotion, right?
Catastrophist.
The people that catastrophize is because, not, again, you need to learn, like, as a doctor, you learn what and there's nuances, there's spider sense, you know what's serious and what's not, and AI is not able to do that at the moment. It can give you the information, and if you give the information, I've got chest pain and these are the 15 different causes of chest pain, what is that going to be? Oh my god. And that's where you need a human being to reassure you. But you can go through certain algorithmic symptoms, but at the end of the day, I still think you still want that human being at the end of the line to say, yeah, that's correct, don't worry,
correct.
you're fine.
Yeah, thank you, Tilly.
Yeah. Well, I think Steve had a different kind of experience. He
This is
Googled his
scary.
illness symptoms, and according to Google, I should have died last Thursday.
Wink, wink, wink. Yeah.
Welcome back, Steve.
Welcome back from the dead, Steve. Lovely to see you and live and kicking. Brilliant. Okay.
Yeah. Matthias, Chris most certainly so can also add that Noel was confronted by the American host about his Twitter statements. You know that our president, Trump at that time, is using Twitter. Noel replied, well, so does my brother. Beep, beep.
Beep, beep, beep. Technical word. Brilliant. Okay. So, look, we're going to come to an end shortly for this, but brilliant comments. But I just wanted to what are your thoughts about this so-called fourth industrial revolution? What is it? Is it the AI world that we're talking about, or is it something different? And come back to leadership with us and that whole thing about adapting, pivoting, and applying all sorts of technology to different use cases. Tell us about the fourth industrial revolution.
You've gone from the machine, processing of machines to help with factory lines to now doing. There was the sort of the previous web era where you had websites. The fourth, that was the third, and now I think the fourth is more around the hyper connectivity of the world with smartphones, and then the whole AI piece coming into it. The fact that and it's going to come into the metaverse as well, I think, and the sort of augmented reality state that we're going to be in. So there's positives and negatives of all of that. And again, I think partly why we have so many mental health problems is because we have this bombardment of information constantly, and our brains, are in fight or flight response the whole time because of that. And, we need to, it's amazing to have all this access to information, but this is why it's so important to have time away from your phone. So, there's just, it's brilliant, but scary. And we lived much simpler lives back in the day, and now who knows what's going to be, what's going to happen as things constantly change and adapt. That's why you've got to change. That's why you've got to be open to adapting and innovating all the time.
I don't know where that's coming from. Is that somebody's phone going?
It's not mine.
It's just bear with me. My phone's going. You can't believe this. This is live, baby. Or 1 second. I'm just going to... Tilly, can you just take over for a moment just while I do that?
Yeah, no, okay. We can certainly do that. Julian, we're basically looking at empowerment and delegation being vital to rapid scaling your business.
Yeah, that's real. Yes. So, okay. So to scale fast, you have to delegate. And I mean, you start by doing everything and you think you can do everything yourself, and you can't. And I'm so bad at, I'm not an operator. I'm terrible at that. I'm more of a sort of type 1 CEO. So you have to bring people around you that complement what you're good at, and then delegate, and then you can have more time to think about what you're good at. And actually the people that build the business are not you, it's the team around you. And it's the people that you can be around you. Just make sure that you're aligned in a good mission and purpose. You bring people on that have complementary skill sets, and you delegate those tasks, and you set goals, and you empower those people to find ways of meeting those goals. And that's the key for me.
Yeah. It's live, baby, and the phone rang. Can you believe that? It's probably my mother.
Has to be your mother.
Has to be my mother.
Has to be your mother.
Apologies.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just wrap up the comments, Tilly, and then we'll come to Dr. Julian's call to action.
Okay, Martin just commented as well that Xerox are now also into augmented reality, acquiring Care AR for video calls, combining augmented reality. and he said it's amazing tech. And then Joe, talking of tech scales ups, I'm being invaded by IT for an update. Sorry, folks, I have to run. Very informative. So, Joe, do watch the recording. This was absolutely awesome. It will be available shortly.
Yeah.
Chris was saying yesterday I was speaking to cybersecurity expert in Ukraine. Looks like it was a webinar, and they also said as one of their lessons, move things to the cloud.
Yeah.
However, in business, cybersecurity, etc., is still important along with compliance.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Spot
absolutely.
on.
I mean, the cloud is how you can scale. That's the point. You've
Isn't
got
it? Yeah, that's the thing that's changed everything, hasn't it? And will continue to with the metaverse and everything like that. Yeah. Brilliant.
Okay, and then Matthias is saying, Dr. Julian, that is a brilliant point. The information overload can definitely be damaging. I have in recent years been more aware about how much time I spend reading news and limiting this to focus on what's important to know in society and simply stop reading articles that's poorly written or clearly lacking scientific backup.
There we go.
no, absolutely, and the
Spot on.
importance of doing what chills you out or what helps. So for me, it's like high intensity exercise is my drug basically, and having downtime, and you need time away because that's the problem. Your sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight response that's the adrenaline pumping through you, gives you that anxiety because of this hyper connected complex world we live in now.
Yeah, that's the downside to it, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, Dr. Julian, let's just pop onto your app a little bit. So, tell us a little bit about. This is an opportunity for you just to tell us a little bit about where you're heading and what you want us to do to help you, Dr. Julian.
Yeah, I mean, this is the app version. There's a web app version. Say we do have people can find a therapist if they want to on our platform and pay for it. But the idea for me, it's more about we've got a large B2B offering, so it's about as I say, we're scaling, giving people the technology with white label to do it for their own service providers and creating that infrastructure, but also providing therapy care to the NHS, to organizations, health. We're working with health insurers, occupational health companies that come to us, and we help to match people with the right information that they need. There's free self-help resource libraries there, and our library of therapists that we have. We've got a global network of therapists on there.
That's very interesting. So not only is it B2B, it's also you're starting to the journey on B2 customer as well, business to customer as well.
Yeah, I mean, it started out as B2C, so it's still there.
Yeah.
People can pay on Stripe, although that's not the main focus, obviously now, because but people can. There's a private market of people that want to pay for therapy, but obviously the reason is you have to pay the therapist. That's why you have to charge for it. But but we say we've got two business models now. Really, it's the sort of therapy service provision on the platform, and the information around that, and making it more efficient, and then the software
Lovely.
side of that.
Yeah, thank you. And just a quick question for you from Matthias. One question regarding negative thoughts. How does your app support people struggling on risk to commit suicide, which actually will be of interest to Steve Whitley as well, who's running a charity on Tough to Talk, who's on the line.
So for me, this is about personalization. So there's questions on there, like from the PHQ-9, the depression score, there is a question about suicide. And I think, again, if you highlight that, what happens is you need to give people access to the right information of what they have in that area. So for me, it's customizable for the information of where that person's coming from. So for what NHS Trust, they have certain crisis numbers that you can phone. Obviously, everyone knows the Samaritans or whatever, but actually there's special services set up in the different individual areas that people are at, with good, so you need good access to quality information, making people have a risk plan in place. That's a real key thing, and being able to sort of have access to those crisis lines, and getting access to support when you need it. Because if it's generic, obviously you can say, "I'll phone the Samaritans," but I think it's nice to be able to give proper, good information that's personalised to that individual.
Yeah. And your app does that, does it?
Yes.
Yeah, super. Thank you. Thanks again, Julian. We've really enjoyed our conversation, and we're just about coming to the end of our time. It's amazing how quick time flies when you're on live, especially when the phone rings in the middle of it. So thanks again, Dr. Julian, for enlightening us today with an extraordinary conversation. And we've loved having you on the show, my friend. And this show will be on podcast to people in the next 24, 48 hours. Please join our LinkedIn Leaders group and keep the conversation moving there, and to follow us on Leaders Live. And remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. And just before we wrap up, just before I get on to what's next week, quick reminder that Leaders Live is a free show for all CEOs, leaders, directors, managers, and entrepreneurs who are interested in business growth through edutainment, infotainment, and enjoy taking part and interacting with these extraordinary conversations. And Clive Hilton's just said, brilliant insights and inspiring session. Thank you. And and together in this community, we help to make the world better, folks, just as Dr. Julian's doing with his apps and making the world better. Lots of different ways of doing that. And we want to bring a spirit of fun, of freedom, of joy, and love and feel good factor in our working lives. And that is really important in today's world, particularly with the modern leadership styles we've just been talking about. And a quick shout out for your DMS, our specialists in document management solutions with over 20 years of experience, and they're our sponsors. And so delighted that you have been sponsoring us for the last few months. It's been absolutely brilliant, really enjoying that. So thank you for being our awesome sponsors, your DMS. And very lastly, just a quick piece on what I do, just if you are interested in what I do commercially. I run a team leadership and development consultancy called PDX. So please contact me if you've got any need for any team development and effective leadership in sales, operations, and executive teams, so you can operate your very best, as we've been talking about today. And I do that through a set of specialist programs like high-performing teamwork, executive team coaching, NLP business diplomas, etc., etc. So finally, the goose for next week, folks. I'm just trying to find the scene here. Goose for next week. And we've just got a brilliant interview today. Extraordinary conversations indeed. Thank you, Dr. Julian, says Matthias. And Martin says, great show. Thanks to all. So, Goose for next week. Well, we're back on Tuesday, folks. Back on Tuesday, 8:45, our usual slot. We'll be hanging out with Ant Jones and Mike Sweeting. Ant and Mike. I love that. Not Ant and Dec, but Ant and Mike. And we're going to be talking about branding. And is it time your brand acts its age? Oh, I think that deserves a ooh. And a brand is a living system, folks, that needs to develop and evolve as time goes on. And just like a human growing, it needs nurturing, just like we've been talking about today as well in iterating software, that it has the best start and remains relevant and acts its age as it grows up. So that's what we're going to be talking about with them. So all about branding next week, folks. Another hot topic, vital for business success. This and a whole lot more. We can't wait. Be there or be square. So we're going to go out on our outro banner right now. I hope you enjoy it. It's our brand new outro closer. And here it comes. Thank you very much. We're all going to wave goodbye to you now. And thank you for having us and listening to us. And thanks, Dr. Julian, again for being with us. Thank you very much. We'll see you all again next week on Tuesday at 8:45 a.m. UK time. Thank you very much. Cheers for now. There we go. Bye-bye. Cheers for now. See you next week. Ta-ra a bit. See you later, Ali.